Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Colette here today from Witch Ways and I want to talk to you about the Celtic Tree Calendar. Is it real? Where did it come from? How can we work with it? So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about where it came from and my thoughts on that. And then I'm going to share 6 spells based on the trees that are associated with the first 6 months of the calendar year. I hope you enjoy. So the first thing I want to say is, spoiler alert, the Celtic Tree Calendar is not historically related to either Celtic, pre-Christian times, or the early Celtic Christian times. And I'm going to spend a minute or two talking about where in fact it did come from, and I'm going to timestamp this. So if you're not interested in where it came from and why it's only a modern invention, you can just skip ahead to the 6 tree spells. Some components of it are based on real info, but as a whole it is based on very recent origin. Basically, the Celtic Tree Calendar came from Robert Graves from his book The White Goddess that he published in 1948, and he drew from authors of the Druidic Revival and early Christian Celtic monks and their thoughts, the things that they wrote down about early Celtic culture as they understood it, or in many cases as they misunderstood it. Did pre-Christian Celts and Druids have plant and tree associations with different moons or different parts of the year? Probably, but if they do, we don't really know about it. What Robert Graves came up with is not accurate, and most scholars consider it completely false. In reality, this calendar is based on Robert Graves' poetical inspiration and what we might call UPG, or unverified personal gnosis. Frankly, I'm a huge fan of unverified personal gnosis. It makes our witchcraft practice more authentic and personal to us. However, it's really important to not pass it off as historical and archaeological fact. I also am a really big fan of having magical associations with plants and animals and certain times of year that they show up or are most present in the landscape. Again, I think that really enhances our personal magic and the energy that we can draw on and makes us more connected with the earth. Humans like to make associations and correspondences. Sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't. So I think the Celtic Tree Calendar is very useful as a model if we adapt it to our own ecosystems and our own intuition. And I'm going to give these trees in the months that he gave them and give an associated spell, and if they match with what's going on in your ecosystem and your landscape, that's great, but feel free to adapt them and move them around or change them or make up your own spells based on what I give you. Mid-December through mid-January is Birch. Mid-January through February is Rowan. Mid-February through mid-March is Ash. Mid-March through mid-April is Alder. Mid-April through mid-May is Willow. Mid-May through early June is Hawthorn. Early June through early July is Oak. Early July through early August is Holly. Early August through the beginning of September is Hazel. The end of September through late October is Ivy. Late October to late November is Reeds. Late November through late December is Alder. These spells are based in traditional magic and traditional lore, but mostly they are spells that I have created. I love birch. It has many magical properties, but I like to do a wreath at this time of year. And so what I do is I gather the twigs, or as I call them, the wisps, that tend to fall at this time of year. And they're very flexible and thin, and they're anywhere from 6 inches long to about 4 or 5 feet. And you can find them anywhere in your neighborhood if you have trees. So I gather them up, and then I take some red ribbon and I turn them into a circular shape. Like maybe I'll tie it with some cord just to hold it in place, and maybe I'll cut that cord off later, but Then I wrap it with red ribbon, and the red ribbon suggests and holds the property of robust human blood and human energy, and it also symbolizes the fire of our passion. So as you wrap that red ribbon, you can visualize the year ahead as an opportunity for new experiences that benefit you. And when you are done wrapping, you can light a small candle, just like a birthday candle, in a fire-safe container in the center of the wreath, and then let it burn all the way out. The candle is the activating force. And if that seems like too much crafting to you, you can always take a piece of birch paper that is part of the outer bark that easily peels off of certain types of birches if you have them in your city or your area, and just tie that with a red ribbon, holding that same intention of visualizing the year ahead as an opportunity for new experiences and gifts that benefit you. So the second one is a spell for Rowan tree, and this one is very traditional. It's not one I created. Take 4 twigs from a Rowan tree that are about equal length, form them into the shape of a cross, tie them with red ribbon, alternating diagonally, across, however you want to tie them until they're secure, and then hang them in a liminal space like a doorway or a window. So the third one is a spell for ash. So find some ash bark or leaves in a store in your town or area, or maybe you're lucky enough to have some ash growing nearby, and you can just harvest the tiniest ends of the twigs and dry them, and then when they're completely dry, grind them up in a coffee grinder. Pro tip, do not use your herb grinder for your coffee. So once you've ground that ash up, whether it's leaves or bark or twigs that you've harvested, take some rosemary and grind it up and blend it with it. As you're blending the rosemary and ash together, visualize the rowan helping you open your intuition and the rosemary helping to clear your mind and protecting and blessing you. And so then once it's dry and turned into powder, you can burn it on charcoal as incense for doing divination whenever you choose. So this seems like a good place to mention that one of my personal goals for the next few months is to increase my Patreon subscribers, and I thank you so much to those of you who already are subscribing and supporting me in that way. It's got great content. I offer spells of the month, I offer digital download, I do articles and blogs, and downloadable book of shadows, and tiers start at $5 a month. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. This next one is a practice that was used traditionally, and in my area, alder leaves come out and are growing by the 4th month of the year. And so you can gather them up and hold them in your hands and ask them to help you stay strong and invigorated, and then you place them in your shoes to keep them from weariness. You can also work with the cones if, for example, the leaves aren't out in your area yet. They're very tiny. They're just about the size of a penny. So you can string them and hang them in your doorway as protection. And as you're stringing those cones, visualize protection and safety for you and your space. For the 5th month, I work with Willow, and this spell is inspired by my oldest niece with some information that she brought through while she was sitting in on one of my herb classes when she was just like 16 or 17. It was really amazing info. I also base this spell on the physical flexibility and characteristics of the willow tree. So start by gathering some very thin willow twigs, and they should be about 18 inches long and as thin as you can get them. Then tie them at the top with florist wire or cord very tightly, and while they're still fresh and flexible, braid them into a braid, and you can have several twigs if you want, or just 3, whatever feels like is workable for you. And as you're braiding them, think about and visualize the flexibility and passion of youth, the creativity of middle age, and the wisdom of elderhood. And then when you're done, let go of that visualization, tie the other end, and hang it somewhere where it will inspire you. So the spell for the 6th month is for Hawthorn, and Hawthorn is associated with the holiday of May Day or Beltane, and this is based on historical English folklore, especially from Western England and Cornwall. If you want to create a magical gate to let the Beltane energy into your life and to bring that power into your home, what you can do is harvest a large branch of hawthorn that is not flowering. The fairies don't like it if you harvest big branches when it's flowering, and place it outside your front door, and then decorate it with ribbons, greenery, and flowers, sort of like a summer version of a Yule tree. And then as you're decorating it, honor the spirits of the wild and the May Day season, and ask those blessings to come to you and yours in your home and bring creativity to your projects. I'll probably do another one of these in June for the second half of the year, going over the next 6 months of the calendar. And if that is of interest to you, just put yes in the comments. I also would really like to hear if any of you want to share what trees you associate with January or February in the region where you live. And if you feel called, please feed the algorithm gods by liking and subscribing. And thank you so much to those who do that already every time. I really appreciate the support. If you're watching in real time, have a wonderful 2024. And until I see you next time, stay safe and be well.